some research, some experience this morning in hierarchy, in power distance, in command and control, and how that kills creativity, how that destroys, I don't know, sort of the essence and the goals of the work that we do. That's a different version of me. This is version 1, that's version 2. I'm Richard Kasperowski. Hi, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. It's awesome that this room is filling up. It's really nice outside the tent. It's kind of nice inside the tent too, with all of us here together. Thanks for being here. So, yeah, I'm a writer. I do a little bit of speaking. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I focus on high-performance teams. I use some tools with names like the core protocols, Agile, open space technology. I created a course that we teach at Harvard University back home in Boston, all on Agile software development. And I actually have a new ebook coming out really soon. It's with the publisher right now, and it's going to be released in about a month, I think. So I'm hoping you'll check that out. So here's some ideas for why this might be important. First is the work of Frederic Laloux, his book, Reinventing Organizations. You might have heard of this book. Laloux does a lot of research on different kinds of organizations, how they manage themselves, how they structure themselves. And what he finds out is, for the work that we care about, which is creative, intellectual kind of work, we can think of the world as structured in kind of two ways. One way is a more mechanistic kind of way, a more command and control, very structured, very process-oriented kind of organization. These organizations focus on achievement. And paradoxically, the organizations that don't focus on achievement do better. Instead of focusing strictly on achievement, they focus on people. People like us. We're people. They focus on humans and connecting together and the full person, not just the number of lines of code you can write per hour, but what's going on in your head, what's going on in your heart. These organizations get better results than the ones that are more structured, more hierarchy-oriented, with a lot more power distance in their organizations. So that's interesting. Google did us a favor. Google did us a favor a couple years ago, sharing their research, replicating all of the research from the last 6 decades. There's 6 decades of research on what goes into high-performance organizations, what goes into high-performing teams. Google replicated all of this research, and they found out that, at least for teams at Google, psychological safety is the thing that helps teams be the best teams they could possibly be. This is the sensation that you feel safe when you're together, that it's okay to take risks, it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to admit you made a mistake and ask for help. In these sorts of organizations, there's less hierarchy, there's less power distance. And this is a subset of a broader thing called team emotional intelligence. These are behaviors that people engage in to understand themselves as individuals and as a team, to understand their current emotional state, to understand the emotional state of each other, both in their team and outside their team, and to do the right things with that understanding, to behave accordingly to get the results they want, to influence the behavior of people outside their team, usually to make sure we're connecting with each other and to maybe even get some help from them, maybe help them. And there's a lot less hierarchy in these kinds of organizations with higher team emotional intelligence. And then there's this other work called the core protocols. It's unrelated to the academic work, but it's really interesting stuff. It's specific behavior patterns learned by watching high-performance teams. So it's evidence-based stuff. It's behaviors that we can learn and bring into our organizations so that we can also have these more connected, more humanistic, less hierarchical organizations that get us everything we want. So that's just a little bit of the background on this stuff. And here's a quick summary. If you want high-performance teams, then you want psychological safety, you want team emotional intelligence. Maybe you want a way to do that. So we're going to explore this right now. And we're going to explore this in 3 parts. This is skipping way too fast. We're going to explore this in 3 parts. The first part is to just explore what I mean when we say hierarchy, what I mean when we say power distance. So I want you to fill in the blank. This will be like a solo, quiet thinking activity. What do you think culture is? How do you define culture? So define culture yourself, maybe in your own words. What does culture mean to you? We're going to be exploring organizational culture and team culture. And if you want, we sort of have this as multiple choice on menti.com. So you could try this out if you want. What does culture mean to you? You could pick from one of the choices. I'll pause for a moment. And we could try this out. We'll do a few of these today. So you guys are picking from the multiple choice list some ideas of what culture is. It's the customs, arts, social institutions of a group, a nation, a group of people, attitudes and behaviors from a particular social group. It's the cultivation of bacteria. Yeah, it actually is. Culture is about stuff that we grow, isn't it? And it's actually all of these things. For some people, it's none of these things. Here's another definition of culture. This comes from Geert Hofstede in his book, Culture's Consequences. And he says, culture is the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes one group of people from another. So it's programming, it's mental programming. When you're born, your parents start programming your mind into correct behaviors and incorrect behaviors. And your siblings do the same, your aunts and uncles, all of the people around you in society start programming you to behave in certain ways. In Hofstede's work, which has been around for about 50 years, Hofstede started doing this research in the 1960s, working for IBM as kind of the first global company. He found 6 unique dimensions that you can use that describe a culture. You can measure these things. And each of these dimensions is independent of the others, and you can use them to describe the culture of a country. The first of these dimensions is power distance. This is the one that's most interesting for us today. This is about how the people in a society with less power accept that they have less power and expect that there are differences in power between people. If there's high power distance, then there are people who have a lot of power and people who have less power, and it's okay. The next one is called individualism. This is about whether you act as an individual or as a collective. In countries with high individualism, people focus more on themselves and less on each other. In countries with more collectivism, we focus more on the collective. We expect the group to take care of us in exchange for unquestioning loyalty to the group. Masculinity is the third one. It's sort of misnamed, but what it means is things that we think of stereotypically as more masculine traits versus feminine traits. It's all about achievement orientation. It's all about being rewarded for doing great work versus caring behaviors, versus we're sort of all in it together. Uncertainty avoidance is about the future and how the future can never really be known and how comfortable we are with that. If there's high uncertainty avoidance, it means we're uncomfortable with that and we do things to sort of put some order on the future, like come up with lots of processes to help us feel better that we're controlling the future. Versus if there's low uncertainty avoidance, whatever happens, that's totally okay. Long-term orientation is about how you deal with your connections to the past and your connections to the far distant future. In in countries and cultures with very large long-term orientation, you're thinking about your ancestors from many generations ago, and you're thinking about the people who will come after you many generations into the future. In cultures that have shorter-term orientation, they're thinking about tomorrow, or monthly results, or quarterly results, quarterly earnings, things like that. They don't really care about what's going to happen 5 years from now. Finally, the sixth one is called indulgence. Indulgence is about gratification of basic human needs. In countries with very high indulgence scores, it's okay to have a lot of fun. It's okay to do things that make you feel good. And in countries with lower indulgence scores, not so much. People frown at you. People tisk at you when you're having too much fun on the metro or something like that. So those are the 6 dimensions that uniquely identify a culture. The one we care about the most today is power distance. Power distance is about hierarchy. It's about these gaps in an organization, gaps in any group of people. So think about power distance in your life. Maybe there's some group of people that you care about, your family, your neighborhood, your work, the company you work for. Is there power distance? Is there a hierarchy in your group? Do you have an example of that for yourself? And in your example, are you part of the dominant group? Are you at the top of the power hierarchy? Or are you at the bottom? Now, we'll try this out. For your group, if you were to put a measurement on it, would your group be closer to 0, no power distance at all, 0 hierarchy, everybody is totally equal? Or would your group be closer to 100? Like, total power distance, there's like a king or a pope maybe, and everybody else at the bottom just does exactly what they're told. Where does your group land on this scale from 0 to 100? Now, the average number here doesn't matter as much as what you think your organization's score, your group's score would be. So one more time, here's the definition of power distance: the degree to which the less powerful members of a society accept and expect that power is distributed unequally. Like, it's just how it is. We expect it to be like that. We wait to be told what to do if there's high power distance, and the people at the top expect to tell us what to do. They expect us to wait to be told what to do, and we always do it exactly the way they say it. When there's a lot of power distance, there's a lot of hierarchy. So that's part one. That's just sort of the background of what I mean by hierarchy, what I mean by power distance. Now we're going to do some activities together to see what it feels like to live in hierarchy, to really experience hierarchy together. We're going to do some activities that come from, well, they're acting activities. They're activities that actors do together to explore situations. We're going to try some of these out together. To get started, you're going to need a partner. So, in fact, we're going to be standing up as we do this. So I want to invite everybody to stand up and find yourself a partner to do the activity with. This could be somebody right near you, it could be somebody anywhere in the room. Okay, so face your partner. Partners will be facing each other. Everybody knows what a mirror is, right? Maybe you looked in a mirror this morning. Maybe on your phone, there's a thing that you make believe is a mirror, like you take the selfie cam and you check your teeth and make sure there's nothing in your teeth. We're going to play a game with each other where you act as your partner's mirror. So one of you will be the leader. Just decide right now which one of you is the leader. And if you're the leader in your group of two, raise your hand. So about half of the people should be raising their hands. There's groups of two, and one of you is raising your hand to be the leader. Cool. Okay, now lower your hand a little bit like this, maybe about this high, and your partner will be your mirror. The other person is the mirror. Your partner, if you're holding up your right hand, your partner will hold up their left hand to be your mirror. Okay? Now try moving your hand, I don't know, a little bit to the right, and your mirror will do the same thing, right? Because that's what mirrors do. They always do exactly the same thing as you. You can move your hand to the left a little bit, and go very slowly. Move very, very slowly. The goal here is to collaborate, to cooperate with each other, not to trick your mirror. This isn't, you're not going to win by tricking your mirror. If your mirror can't follow you, that's actually not what we want. Move your hand very slowly, left, right, maybe up, maybe down. What would happen if you rotated your hand a little bit? Your mirror will rotate their hand, right? Rotate it clockwise, counterclockwise. If you move your hand back, your mirror will move their hand back and go slowly. There are no tricks here. Move your hand forward, very, very close. So close you're almost touching each other's hands. But don't actually touch. That would be weird. But so close you're almost touching. Okay. Try your other hand at the same time. Your mirror will hold up their other hand. So just one little degree of difficulty harder. Move your left hand slowly. Maybe move both hands at the same time. Very slowly, no tricks. Now, if you want, while you're doing this, you could bend your knees. What would happen if you went down a little bit lower? Slowly, no tricks. A little higher. You could stand on your toes, put your hands way up high. Oh, you could try lifting a foot. That would be interesting. Again, no tricks. If your partner can't do it, then you don't trick your partner. Okay, now something really amazing is going to happen. Somehow, I don't know exactly how, the leader is going to become the mirror, and the mirror will become the leader. You'll just know when it happens. It will just happen magically. Somehow, the mirror is going to become the leader, and you're going to start following the new leader. Again, you could try putting your hands close, move them far, go slow. All right, wonderful. Let's pause. Thank you all. That was so cool to watch. Now, I want to debrief on that a little bit for you doing that together. What was that experience like for you? A little warm. It's hot in here. It was not good. Could you say more about how it was not good?
I felt like I was ordering. That's what was going through my mind rather than
All right. When you
going together.
When you were the leader, you felt like you were ordering your partner what to do? Yeah. Thanks. Anybody else? What was the experience like for you?
Following was more stressful.
For you, following was more stressful.
Right? I actually
All right, so when it was leading, it was easier. When you had to switch to being a follower, it was much more stressful for you to like follow exactly what your partner was doing. Oh, we're going to try a variation of this. So actually stand up again. This one is called one-hand hypnosis. It's incredibly powerful. Whoever was the leader last time will be the leader this time. Whoever was the previous leader is still the leader. What you're going to do is face each other again and hold up your hand like this, totally straight, no curve in your hand at all. Make sure it's totally flat. Just one of you, only the leader. Only the leader. The other people, followers, put your hand down. And what you do is you hold your hand very carefully, 10 centimeters in front of your partner's nose. Okay, now, partner, your only purpose in life right now is to keep your nose 10 centimeters from your partner's hand. All right? And leader, you could try doing something like moving your hand a little bit lower. Partner, you're going to follow. Go very slowly, no tricks, right? Up a little, to the right, to the left. No trickery involved. Take good care of your follower. Now, what would happen if you rotated your hand clockwise? You're going to notice your partner is turning their head a little bit. Or counterclockwise, same thing. Or if you put your hand over their head, they're going to have to look up, right? Or if you put it below their chin, they're going to have to look down. If you bend your knees, right, they're going to have to lower down. I see a leader walking carefully. You know, if you carefully walk, if you have room for that, your follower will follow you, keeping their nose exactly 10 centimeters from the palm of your hand. And all the while, you're being very careful, taking care of each other. Okay, so let's pause there. Thanks again. Very well done. And let's, again, a quick debrief on that experience of one-hand hypnosis. What was that like for you? I heard a voice. What did you say? Weird. It was weird. Yeah, for sure. This is probably the weirdest session of the whole conference.
I found it was a dance, but maybe because we just had a workshop day together.
Okay, it felt like a dance. Yeah. And maybe that was because you've been practicing. You had a workshop before this. Yeah, it is kind of like that. And in a dance, there's, depending on the style of dance, sometimes there's a leader and a follower. And that's just how it works. And you take good care, the leader takes good care of the follower knows to follow the leader, otherwise you might step on each other's feet, you actually might fall down, something bad might happen, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do one more variation of this. To do this variation, I'm gonna need some volunteers. If we did this with everybody in the room, it would be really, really weird. So we'll just do this with a few people. For this one, we're gonna simulate what it's like to work in a large hierarchical organization. And I want somebody to volunteer to be the CEO. We'll have a whole bunch of people doing this. We'll do it here. Could somebody volunteer to play CEO? You're all warmed up, you all know what to do. Come on up. Who's the CEO? I'm. All right, so CEO, you're gonna hold two hands out like this. All right, let's come right here. Oh, we could use like 8, 10 people. So if you want to play along, come on up. We need a couple of people to be senior VPs. Who are the senior VPs? Here's one. Okay, one senior VP. Put your hand like this. One senior VP. Wait, you're being hypnotized by your CEO. So 10 centimeters away. Another senior VP. Who's the other senior VP? All right. So you're being hypnotized by the CEO? All right, now senior VPs. Put your arms out. We need some VPs. We need 4 VPs. Okay, so VPs, put your nose 10 centimeters away from your senior VP's hand. VPs, put your hands out. So we need some directors. Here's a director. Does anybody else want to be a director? We're hiring for our new startup. We're looking for some leadership. We're building our leadership team. Directors, hold your hands out. We're building directors now. Yeah, find your place. All right, our VCs are going to be so happy about this leadership team we've recruited. All right, now, CEO. Move your right hand a little bit, see what happens. And okay, okay, move your left hand, see what happens. Move both hands and see what happens. Everybody is keeping their nose 10 centimeters away from their boss's hand. CEO, what would happen if you bent your knees a little, went down? All right, what would happen if you went up and raised your hands really high and stood up on your toes? Oh, yeah, okay. What would happen if you rotate a little bit?
Sorry, that kind of directs the point.
Rotate so they can follow you. Oh, that's interesting. If you rotated the other way. What would happen if you, I don't know, walked to your right a couple of steps? Or stepped backward, or rotated while stepping forward or backward? All right, let's pause there. Thank you so much, leadership team. Now, people who were in the company, what was that like for you? Chaotic. Absolutely chaotic. And somebody put a thumbs up. Was that like it was good, or were you? It was a good experience, but only if you were the CEO? CEO, what was that like for you?
So, being like the first person is following kind of nice, but the third and so on following like pretty bad.
Okay. So you can see that the first person,
latency.
maybe the second person was following pretty okay, but beyond that, not so
Next
much.
step, yeah, sure. I got it.
Same experience. Actually, it was really hard to follow after a couple of steps. Yeah.
It was, for people lower in the hierarchy, it was really hard to follow. Other people watching, did you notice anything? What did you notice? Just like a real company. Can you say more? Like a big multinational company. And what about it was like a big multinational company?
I think the CEO shouldn't move this much, just smaller. Otherwise,
That the CEO, for it to be effective, the CEO can only move a small amount, right, for the other people to be able to follow. And we probably saw this here. When the CEO moved fast, we actually saw this, the CEO went like this. And nothing else happened. Nobody could follow. Right? The CEO wanted to move fast, but nobody could follow that fast. This is an experience of hierarchy. It's like this in large organizations, especially, we'll say, those more mechanistic, process-oriented organizations. The ones that Lulu was researching and found that there's a lot more process, there's a lot less humanism, there's a lot more orientation around achievement, like follow the CEO, do what the CEO says. So that was intended to explore what power and power distance and hierarchy might look like. And now what can we do about it? So back to what we already know. We know from Lulu that organizations with less power, well, they get better results kind of as a side effect. They're not even focusing on the results, but it just happens. From Google, Amy Edmondson, the work on psychological safety, we know that organizations where people feel safe perform better than others, on teams where people feel safe, where they feel comfortable being themselves, they get better results just as a side effect. We know from the work on team emotional intelligence from Vanessa Druskett and Steve Wolf, we know that organizations in which people care about each other like they're people, they get better results. There's really good science behind this. And we've got this stuff called the core protocols. We're going to explore this a little bit in our next activity set, ways that we can maybe deal with or reduce power distance and hierarchy in an organization so that we can get the team emotional intelligence and get the psychological safety and get our goals achieved with each other. So the core protocols look like this. I organize them in a stack of building blocks. The building blocks are called positive bias, freedom, self-awareness, connection, productivity, and error handling. So we start with this idea of positive bias. Positive bias is about not automatically saying no to each other when somebody shares an idea with you. You suspend disbelief for a moment. You pretend that it might be a good idea. You try it out in your brain. Maybe you try it out together. You collect some data, and then you decide. On high-performing teams, from watching high-performing teams, both in a laboratory setting and from inducing them into this state, we know that on high-performing teams, people have freedom. People have autonomy. People can opt in. People can opt out. That's a little different from an organization with a lot of power distance where you just do what you're told. On higher-performing teams, people can opt in and people can opt out. This idea of pass is that you can opt out. You just say, I pass on any activity that your team is doing, and that's totally okay. Checkout is like that, but even more, you can, well, if you're not engaged with the work that's happening, if you've got something more important to do, you're allowed to go do it. You're allowed to leave the tent and to go do something that's the best thing for you at the moment. You kind of have personal responsibility to make sure that the right things are happening for you, and by doing that, the right things are happening for the team. And on high-performing teams, the evidence is that people are very self-aware on the team and in the organization. They know themselves. They know their current emotional state, and they can even say it out loud. They know what they might want help with. And they have a way to ask each other for help, and they ask each other for help a lot. They don't get stuck when they don't know how to do something or when they have a problem with something. They don't get blocked. And they know deep down in their hearts what's the most important thing in their lives. What is the thing that really drives them and motivates them? What fills their spirit? Here's a solo activity, just to try it out. A little bit of this self-awareness. How do you feel right now? You can use any word you want. I have a feeling the answer is going to be hot. What we're looking for is, what's your emotional state? So we'll make it multiple choice. Just pick one of those words. What's your current emotional state? How do you feel in that sense? And you might even add on some information about why you feel that way, whatever it is. Like, I don't know, maybe you're mad because it's so hot in the room. Maybe you're happy because you're here with this nice group of people. And just to really prompt you, multiple choice, it doesn't really matter what the answers are, but I just want to prompt you to have an answer. What is your answer? How do you feel right now, your emotional state? It's a really happy group, isn't that cool? Now, here's the script. This is a script that many teams follow to share this emotional state with each other and become more human together as a team and as an organization. That partner that you were doing those previous activities with, well, that will be your partner for this activity. We're going to try this out as an activity. With your partner, try this out. One of you will be the speaker. One of you will be the listener. When it's your turn to be the speaker, you just follow this script. Just read the script and fill in the blanks. You say to your partner, I feel glad, sad, mad, or afraid. You maybe add on some more information. Oh, you don't have to do this with your partner. You could say, I pass. When you're done, you just say, I'm in, and your partner says, welcome. And then you switch roles. If you were just the listener, you'll become the speaker. You'll do the same thing. That's an activity that I want you to try right now with the partner that you were playing with earlier. Are there any questions about this activity? All right, let's do it with your partner right now. Try it out. Okay, let's pause there. And another quick debrief. What was that like for you? What was that like for you? It was okay? Anybody else? Something similar or different? What? It felt like you were connecting. Yeah. So sometimes people feel okay doing this. Sometimes it feels like you're connecting with each other. Sometimes it feels a little weird because we don't normally do this with the people we work with. Maybe this isn't something you normally do with your team or in your company. But it turns out that on high-performing teams, this is something that people do. They share their current emotional state with each other. And this is just from the evidence of watching high-performing teams. This is what they do. Add on a layer, add on another building block there, the connection building block. And yeah, emotional check-in is a way to connect with each other as well as a way to understand yourself, self-awareness. So there's checking in with your emotional state. There's asking for help because you ask other people for help. It's a way to connect. There's this thing called intention check. It's about understanding somebody's intent when they said something or did something. And there's this thing called investigate. It's a way to ask each other questions to learn more about each other. And it's about being curious. It's about just learning more from the people you're with. And we'll try this out for a minute. With your partner, ask some questions about your partner's, well, not about your partner's personal alignment, but ask some questions to your partner. One of you do this. Ask some questions to your partner about that organization that they used as an example, that group of people that they used as an example of power distance. Try to learn something from your partner about their group and the power distance in their group. Go ahead, try it out. Okay, we'll pause there. We'll pause there. Now, here's the funny thing about organizations that are less hierarchical, where there's less power distance, where people are more self-aware and they're connecting with each other. Well, one interesting thing about it is that these are the high-performing organizations. These are the high-performing teams. You know, this is just from the evidence of watching these teams. If you were to watch a high-performing team in the wild, look at their behaviors, look at a group of people that are on a team where there's high performance, you'll notice that those people look like they love each other. Okay, there's like murmuring in the audience, like, we don't use words like that where I work. That's okay. You could try this word instead. You could call it friendship. And you know, they don't have to be like real friends, like you do everything together all the time, but when they're working together, they look like they're friends. They engage in behaviors that are friendship behaviors. This is just from watching high-performance teams. This is what it looks like. And these are some of the things that happen. These are some of the things you can observe. There's positive bias. They have positive intent with each other. They can opt in. They can opt out. They have the freedom and autonomy to choose who they're with and what they're doing and how they're doing it. They share their emotional state with each other to do something like this emotion check-in. They know what they want really, really deeply, and they ask each other questions, and they try to learn as much as they can about each other. This is sort of like a recipe for automatic friendship, and on high-performing teams, these are some behaviors that actually happen. And if this is a little too, like, you know, we taught a class on this yesterday, and I said, this is like what hippies do. This isn't like what happens in an investment company or finance or something. Well, that's okay. If this is too much like what hippies do for you, we have source code for it. So you can just take this source code, install it in the brains of the people on your team, and run it. And you'll get, you know, just by doing these behaviors, you'll get the side effect of being more interconnected and having better results together. Now, once you have that, well, once you've got this connected, cohesive team, then you do things together to achieve the results that you want. And you make sure that you stay on track with each other. So there are ways to, you know, whatever your team agreements are, you stay on track with those team agreements. It's okay to tell each other that you've deviated from your agreements and get back on track. So I'd like to know what your key takeaways are from this talk. I've got some suggested key takeaways. Let's see what you think. What was the most important thing you heard or learned during this session today? So we've got some ideas like you can use these behaviors called core protocols to decrease power distance. Culture, power distance, and hierarchy, that's interesting stuff. You can do activities to explore power distance. There is science and research on high-performing teams. Maybe you're taking away something else. Right? So there is science and research on high-performing teams. Hierarchy and power distance kill high performance for the kinds of work that most of us in this room do. We're doing creative intellectual work. Hierarchy gets in the way. If you want high performance, well, what you want from the research is you want more team emotional intelligence and you want more psych safety. You want the stuff that Lulu talks about in reinventing organizations. And one way to do it is to try these behaviors, core protocols, behaviors learned by watching high performance teams. If you want to learn more, you can ask me for help. You can look at my website. There are ways to ask me for help. We've got ways to do this with teams and organizations. So we can try this out together. We've got classes that we run on this. Finally, one behavior that people engage in high-performing teams is called perfection game. It's a way to collect everybody's ideas together to make sure that what you're creating together is the best it could possibly be by aggregating everybody's ideas together. People ask for help on high-performance teams, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to ask you for help. Group, will you help me make this the best presentation it could be for future groups of people by playing perfection game on it? I'll just ask you to give this a score from 1 to 10 based on how how much value you think you could add to it. Tell me what you liked about it, and tell me what else it would take to make it a perfect 10. If you did that, I'd really love the help. And while you're doing that, I'll just say thank you. I love how we all played along together. Those activities were so much fun for me to watch from here. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you have a great craft conference for the rest of the 2 days. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
My
It was
pleasure.
really exciting. And as I said, you can submit questions through Slido. We have time for one question perhaps. And it says from Shandor, do you think holacracy is a game changer?
Do I think holacracy is a game changer? I think holacracy is interesting. I have a lot of experience with sociocracy, which is sort of a variation or a predecessor to holacracy. It's interesting in the way it helps bring softer voices to the surface so that everybody's voice in the group is heard. That's another thing that is characteristic of high-performing groups, high-performing teams. There's equal voice time in the group. Everybody's voice is heard for about the same amount of time. There are fewer dominant people in the group because of some of the ways holacracy works. Is it a game changer? I don't know, but it's another set of behavior patterns that might help you overcome hierarchy, power distance, and have better performance.
Thank you very much. And let me hand over this
Thank you.
present.
Thanks
Thank you
very
very
much.
much for the exciting talk once again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.